I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Bryce.
And we are the Lugos, realtors with My Home Group Real Estate here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. And welcome to our channel where we are obsessed with helping buyers and sellers navigate the real estate process in our home state of Arizona. If you're into that kind of thing, be sure to hit subscribe to this channel to be notified every time we're dropping new videos just like this. All right, Bryce, we're talking about home selling mistakes to avoid.
Okay.
All right, I want to start at a really common pitfall that is really difficult for some sellers to overcome, which is overpricing.
Yep, we see it a lot, and we've been seeing it a lot this year. Even with pricing continuing to rise, people will see what something just sold for, and then, that's your comp, and then they come on higher, and then you still have an appraisal to meet and hit value, and it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that people have, because then their expectations are set high that they're going to get this value, and unless the buyer is coming to the table with a lot of cash to cover the difference of a low appraisal, they're going to be reducing the price and getting frustrated.
Yeah, I think that sounds like there's 3 scenarios that can happen with overpricing your home that we want to avoid. The first one is stagnating on the market.
Yeah.
Which is still happening in this market, and it's really embarrassing in a really strong seller's market when you don't sell right away.
It's happening.
Because you're overpriced.
It's happening more so right now because inventory has come back up a little bit. Earlier this year, when people were listing high, they still might get their price, and maybe it was still closing because someone had the cash in their pocket to pay the difference. But right now, we're seeing properties sit longer, a little bit longer, and then have to do a price reduction.
Yeah.
And when people, see price reductions, then they're questioning what's wrong with the house. It's a perception at that point. So. And
you touched on this, the second thing we want to avoid, which is the appraisal issue, right? So particularly in areas or price points where overwhelmingly the transactions are financed, right? People are coming with loans. What does that look like on the appraisal side?
Well, we just went through this last month with a client up in Anthem, and the property was priced already high. It could have been supported in a tough way with an appraisal, but it was already high. Multiple offers, had to go up above list price. Appraisal came in 9% lower, and so the seller had to drop. Well, in order for this deal to work out, the seller had to drop some. Buyer was willing to come out some, but you end up losing in value there, and having to do the price reduction. It's actually funny because while we were representing the buyer in that situation, 2 more model match homes went on for an additional 10% more than we were even under contract for. We can't, our transaction closed about 6% below our list price, and those other properties, you just saw them immediately, both of them just dropped their price.
Yeah, that's really bad.
So if you're overpricing your home based on the market, and you're seeing things have to drop because of appraisals, you're just putting yourself in a bad position. Okay, and that leads to the third that we see is limiting your buyer pool. So if you're already priced at the top of someone's budget, you're going to be limiting the amount of people that are going to want to proceed on the home, because they're not going to want to necessarily compete with others and see it go higher than the list price. So you might be limiting the amount of people that are actually able to purchase your home.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to the median sales volume, right? So there's a median price point where the majority of not even traditional home buyers, but the majority of resale activity is happening, which really is below a certain price point. And then anything as you start to climb up and up and up, you're reducing that buyer pool even more, which is going to reduce the amount of people who are willing to justify maybe overspending or competing in a multiple offer situation. And it's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because we have had situations with buyers who they have their cap, they have their price point. And so it does not make sense for them to even sometimes look up to that price point in their search. We're actually looking lower.
Yeah, because when things were so competitive, they knew that they were going to have to come up a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you're already overpricing your home, you're going to lose some of the buyers that are out there.
So overpricing, we definitely want to avoid. Nobody wins. Let's talk about the second big thing that we want to avoid, which to me is waiting to find a home before you list your home. So this is something that we've run into pretty frequently in the last year. You and I are pretty like uniquely experienced, I would say, in the process of helping somebody sell a home and buy a home simultaneously with that contingent sale, meaning somebody has to sell their home, get the proceeds in order to buy their next one. Really common, especially as we're talking about like these move-up buyers that are entering the market. Most millennials who have like maybe purchased their first home a couple of years ago are ready to move up, cash in on that equity, get into something with a little more space or in a different area. A lot of times what we see are sellers looking at this market that we've seen in the last 18 months, and hopefully this is something that we begin to see less of, but they're seeing how quickly homes are selling. And they think, I don't even want to list my home until I see the perfect house. Until I see the house that has me so excited and ready to go through this stressful process of listing my home, I'm not even going to reach out and get the ball started because I want to make sure that I know where I'm going. And that makes sense to me, especially as we have, I mean, looking at our situation personally, like we have grown a family, like we've got a lot of moving parts. We have pets, we have a toddler, and the idea of going through that transition obviously is very stressful for anybody, but it's not the best move. The reason we want to avoid this mistake is because it is a competitive market, and the home that might be perfect for you, that seller might be required to sell their home before they can buy their next one. And so they're way less likely to accept an offer that is contingent upon the sale of your home if you have not even listed it yet. Like I would say 9 times, maybe even more, 9 times out of 10 at least, the seller is going to look at your offer and they're going to see, oh, you still have a home to sell and you haven't even gotten it listed. I don't think so.
Yeah.
We are seeing contingent offers being accepted now.
More so. Yeah.
But a lot of times they're past a lot of the typical transaction contingencies, like the due diligence period. They've already accepted repair requests and gone through inspections. Maybe they've even gotten past an appraisal if that was a factor.
Yeah, I mean, there's options for sellers if you were to list your home first. You know, the lease back is a big option. You can generally, if your buyer is going to be a traditional buyer with financing, they've got like 60 days that you could do a lease back on. And so if you were to sell yours or get it listed, get a contract on it, put a lease back in place, you know, that'll give you a little bit more time, and it makes you a more competitive buyer if you are contingent in this market, because you've already hit some of those contingencies when you're submitting offers on homes.
We're actually in one of those processes right now for one of our clients who had a really great process, a really great experience going through that. And same thing, like they also had a young family. It's a big deal for them, and we were able to negotiate an awesome leaseback that resulted in, like, basically so far, knock on wood, 0 headaches along the way.
Yeah.
And I guess the other obvious options are short-term rentals, going into an Airbnb, you know, bunking with family in the meantime, which our clients have all done all of those. We've had all of those situations before, and it's usually not as big of a deal as you might think, but the benefit of doing that is you do get to capitalize on a really strong sale, hopefully sell at the top of the market. Well, you know, who knows where the top actually really is, but sell during strong selling conditions, and then have an unencumbered purchase. What's the next big mistake that we want to avoid when selling our home?
Another big one that we see is sellers holding out for more offers, a better offer, or, you know, maybe more money, I guess, that they might think they're going to get. But typically, I mean, I guess not typically, but maybe generally what we see is, you know, your first offers are the strongest offers, especially if it's after being listed for just a short period of time. Buyers see it, they get excited about it, submit a strong offer. Maybe they've been looking for a while, so those are generally the strongest buyers that we see. So when you decide you want to wait longer, more days, another week, you know, you're less likely to find that strong buyer, and you're gonna, you know, tick off that first buyer and they might be gone.
Yeah.
That's one of the bigger issues that I see.
This is a strategy that just never plays well for anybody. And it's going to cost you money every single time, I feel like. So from the seller's perspective, what are your options if you get an offer quickly, but it's not quite what you were hoping to see?
When you're listing your home, you can, especially in this market, we see it a lot. You might list on a Thursday or Friday, and you set expectations up front with buyers that you are going to be reviewing the offers maybe at the end of the weekend. We see this a ton right now. So just putting that expectation out there might allow you that extra day or so in terms of receiving offers through a weekend, but asking them to hold out for a long period of time
it's pretty unreasonable.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I mean, you're likely going to be a buyer too. Are you going to want that to be the case for you when you're back out there looking for a house?
It is interesting when sellers might forget that perspective when they're going to be on that other side of the coin pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think that this also speaks to having really strong, an agent in your corner who has a really strong foothold in marketing, because the marketing is what helps you command a really strong offer right up front, and maybe even multiple offers that you can use as leverage to make sure you get the deal that you're looking to get.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listing your house, like I said earlier on, we typically like to list toward the end of the week because our, most buyers are going out on the weekend. But say you're listing on a Thursday, Friday, and you get an offer, Friday night from a Friday showing. If it hits, a lot of the terms that you guys are looking for as a seller, I mean, you can still send a counter offer, and maybe that'll delay it a little bit for you and make sure that you're asking for everything that you really want. But if it's a good, strong buyer, no reason to send them away by telling them you're looking for another buyer.
Yeah, I agree.
You work the deal that you have in front of you. And again, those offers, those first few offers, the first offer, we almost always see them being the strongest offer. But now real quick, if you are, again, listing at that time and you have a ton of showings, maybe you have 25 showings over a weekend, because we've seen that over these last few months, you have these huge showings, then you're going to have to tell those first offers, look, we've got showings that, they couldn't get in because we've got lined up showings, and, out of respect for everyone who's going to be seeing the house this weekend, this is when we're going to be reviewing the offers. And you might start getting them trickling in at that point, because everybody's getting the opportunity, an equal opportunity at that point, to see the home and submit an offer on the home.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point. I would only add the communication from your agent in those situations is everything, because that can be a really delicate situation when emotions are running high, buyers are falling in love with the place, they're really excited. The last thing they want to do is wait any longer than necessary to see whether or not they even get the chance at it. And so a lot of buyers might even hear something like that if it's not presented well from the listing agents and think, I'm not even going to try. If they have 25 other showings, I don't even want to compete. I'm not writing an offer. And that's when we'll see sometimes sellers will have these big blowout weekends where they'll have tons of traffic. They'll have 50 people do an open house and maybe one offer. And that can be really difficult because you're seeing all this traffic and you're saying as a seller, what happened? Where are all the offers? It wasn't presented well, it wasn't communicated well with the cross agents, and you scared away all the buyers because they are tired of those multiple offer situations. So I think that actually leads really well into the last point that I wanted to offer. The last big mistake that we want to help sellers avoid is comparison. Now, it has been said, comparison is the thief of joy. But comparing yourself specifically when it comes to your home sale to maybe other homes in the neighborhood or your friends and family experiences can be really hard not to do, especially in market conditions as we've seen when it's so loud, right? Everybody's talking about how fast homes are moving, multiple offer situations, X amount over list price. So it's really hard to take that emotion out of it. But I think one of the worst things a seller can do is compare themselves to another sale, comparable sale in the neighborhood, maybe 6 weeks later after the fact, and expect that you're going to have the exact same situation happen to you. So an example might be if a home lists 6 weeks after another similar home sold with 10 offers and sold for $50,000 over list price. Just because that happened 6 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago even, does not mean it's going to happen to your sale. And you cannot directly compare those two situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors, depending on your house versus their house. In 3 weeks, the market conditions can change quite a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of those buyers at that time might have moved on and found something else. And yeah, I agree. You can't go off of what price-wise, comp-wise. Yes, we're looking at those.
Because that
when we're
speaks
setting
to value,
price,
which is not going to change as quickly.
But the situation, like what your house has and offers to the buyers that are out there, may not be the same as that house. And then obviously, when you're comparing, like you said, to family and friends, what is their market like? Where are they? So there can be a lot of big differences.
And it can be hard too, because you might be sharing your experience with a friend or family member, and the first thing is like, well, your agent sucks.
Yeah.
So they obviously did something wrong, and maybe they did. In some situations, like, unfortunately, you can get hooked up with an agent who represents you poorly. We see that happen all the time, which is why if you're interested in selling, you should definitely book a time to speak with us through the link in the show notes and the caption below. We'll see if we're a good fit to help you out and give you really great representation. But beyond that, it can be really hard to think, like, to assign blame. Because, like you said, there are so many different factors that can really impact your selling experience wherever you are and whenever it's happening. But again, if you are considering selling your home anytime in the next 12 to 18 months, now is a really good time to start preparing for that big transaction and making sure that you are setting yourself up in the strongest way possible for a successful home sale. And if you are in the greater Metro Phoenix area, we invite you to reach out to us. We can book a call just to speak below. That link is there in the caption. We'll connect for a few minutes, hear your story, see where you're at now, where you want to be. If it seems like we can help, we'll share how we can do that, and we'll decide if working together is a good fit.
So if you found value from this video, be sure to hit subscribe, and we will see you next week.